Well, welcome to our special coverage of Chinese President Xi Jinping's visit to Russia. And President Xi Jinping and his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin are now holding a meeting with participants from an energy forum. And this is happening now in St. Petersburg.
The mutual trade between Russia and China grew from 64 to more than $100 billion, or about 1.7 times. The amount of energy resources trading grew by 2.2 times. As a result, the amount of energy resources in our trade turnover grew up to 40%. Bearing in mind the current dynamics and the available resource potential, it will be realistic to achieve the objectives that you, esteemed Vladimir Vladimirovich and Mr. Xi Jinping, set as a task to grow the amount of annual trade between our two countries up to $200 billion. The main outcome of today's summit will be the Standing Organizational Committee of the Business Forum, which includes representatives of different companies and organizations, which will provide for information exchange and the development of the relationships and monitoring the execution of the decision made on a standing basis aimed at achieving the task that you set us to grow our trade turnover. Altogether, within the first forum in Beijing in November last year and this forum here in St. Petersburg, there were more than 200 companies who participated in the forum. 33 agreements have been signed. Major commercial contracts in the key industries: nuclear energy, oil and gas production, oil services, petrochemicals, power machine building, coal industry. The achieved agreements envisage mutual investments into Russia and China in the amount of more than $20 billion. Also, along the event, we had more than 100 business meetings and bilateral negotiations. Dear Vladimir Vladimirovich, dear Mr. Xi Jinping, we are highly appreciative of the trust that you extend to the Russia-China Energy Business Forum that was established following your task, and we commit ourselves to provide for the effective bilateral work. And I would like to thank you for your attention and pass the floor to the head of the Government Energy State Department, Mr. Jinhua. Dear Chairman Xi Jinping, dear President Putin, thanks to a very thorough joint preparation, the second Russian-China Energy Business Forum took place successfully yesterday. About 400 representatives from 100 energy companies participated in it. About 20 bilateral meetings were held, 17 joint agreements were signed, so one can say that this forum has achieved the planned results. And holding of such a forum is the matter of important agreements between President Putin and Chairman Xi Jinping. Since its conception, this forum has always been enjoying the attention and support from the heads of the two nations. In November last year, Chairman Xi Jinping and President Putin forwarded their congratulations on the occasion of the forum, and today both of them are meeting with the participants of the second forum, which to us, the representatives of the energy industry, is a great honor, great inspiration, and a strong impetus. Over the past few years, under the personal guidance from the heads of two states, China and Russia are achieving fruitful results in the energy industry development. The energy trade turnover last year was about 40% in the total trade turnover between Russia and China. We are successfully promoting cooperation along a number of major projects in the area of oil and gas and nuclear energy, as well as in the area of the renewable sources and energy, and a joint discovery and access to the third country markets. In the future, we would be ready to follow the agreements between the two heads of our states and apply all the best efforts in developing Russian-China relationship in the new era so as to take our energy cooperation up to a much higher level. The third forum will be taking place in China next year, and together with the Energy Commission under the President of Russia, which minds the Fuel and Energy Complex strategy development, and our department to thoroughly prepare ourselves for the next forum. Dear Vladimir Vladimirovich, please, could you share with us your thinking about the way the further development of the Russian-China cooperation may take place?
Thank you very much, colleagues. I'm glad to welcome you. I would like to remind you that the agreement on establishing this forum was reached during our state visit that took place in June last year in Beijing. The first forum took place in October 2018 in Beijing, and as we can see now, this forum is gaining momentum. The second forum has been timed to coincide with the state visit of President Xi Jinping to Russia, and we are very glad that gathered here are the representatives of more than 100 leading financial institutions and companies of two countries that are in this sector. And this discussion is being attended by politicians and experts, which is very important so that we could come up with fully fledged decisions. The substantive program of the forum gives us a chance to talk in detail about the prospects of expanding our bilateral cooperation in this very important field, to agree on plans to develop cooperation in digital technologies, as well as the innovative refurbishment of our oil and gas sector. I would like to emphasize, even though you know that very well, energy is one of the key sectors, one of the dynamically sectors of Russian-Chinese cooperation. With my friend and colleague, Mr. Xi Jinping, we pay a great deal of attention to energy cooperation. It is our priority. We support joint initiatives and projects. One of the most important projects is the exploration by Rosneft, together with Chinese counterparts, of oil deposits in eastern Siberia, the construction of pipeline East Siberia, the Pacific, with a strain going to Datsing. Apart from that, we successfully implement the Power of Siberia projects, and Novatek has also invited Chinese investors to Yamal LNG project. Russia is one of the major suppliers of oil and gas resources to China. Last year it was more than 67 millions of tons. There are negotiations on supplies of natural gas from the Far East of Russia through the western route, and there is a high demand on Russian coal and electricity in China. And the Eastern Corridor, as you're aware, is being under construction too, and the Power of Siberia is being constructed even ahead of schedule. We are also developing our cooperation in the nuclear. This has been mentioned by colleagues already. With Russian participation, China has constructed 4 power units of the Tianwan nuclear power plant, and there are agreements on constructing a number of other Russian-designed nuclear power units. We are also developing our cooperation in scientific research, which is no less important. We highly appreciate the willingness of the Chinese businesses to work together with us, and we're certainly interested in expanding the presence of Chinese companies in the Russian market, so that foreign companies, in particular Chinese investors, would feel as comfortable as possible in Russia. And for that, we continue to improve our business environment, improve our legislation, and we try to lift excessive administrative barriers. We assume that joint business projects are beneficial to all economic actors because they generate demand for investment, for technology, for new talents, as well as knowledge. They open up new opportunities and markets. That is why in many Russian regions, in particular border regions with China, are going to set up special conditions, in particular special economic zones, which could compensate up to 30% of capital costs thanks to the reimbursements and preferences. Great preferences are being given to investors at the advanced development zones in the Russian Far East. 130 new enterprises have been set up already, and 13,000 modern jobs have been created, which is a concrete demonstration of what we're doing together. The overall total volume of investment without budget allocations stands at more than $3.5 billion. Foreign investors can also get very serious preferences by taking advantage of special investment contracts that guarantee that the taxation terms are not going to be changed. I believe that this Russian-Chinese Energy Forum is very important. It's a good tool to promote our bilateral cooperation, not just in energy, but in other industries as well, because energy is supported by many related industries. As has been said, the next forum is to take place in China in 2020. President Xi Jinping and I are certainly going to support all of your constructive proposals. I'd like to thank you for this joint work. Thank you.
感谢普京总统的精彩支持。中俄能源合作取得今天的成绩，离不开两国元首的。
Thank you very much for this presentation. Russia and China have achieved great results in their energy cooperation, which wouldn't have been possible without personal guidance and involvement on behalf of our two presidents. Now we will give the floor to the chairman of China's People's Republic, Mr. Xi Jinping. Dear President Putin, dear moderators, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, I am very happy to meet you here in this beautiful city of St. Petersburg. First of all, I would like to warm-heartedly congratulate all of you on the successful opening of the second Russian-Chinese Energy Business Forum. Russia and China are partners in a comprehensive strategic cooperation. A continuous deepening of multifaceted cooperation over the past few years significantly facilitates the common development and prosperity in both nations. The energy industry is one of the most important, productive and broadly encompassing elements in this bilateral cooperation. Last year, the amount of trading between the energy resources between Russia and China exceeded $40 billion, amounting to a tangible figure of a record turnover at the level of $100 billion. Successfully are being implemented and functioning such strategically important projects as the Eastern Route of the pipeline and the Yamal LNG project. Very close cooperation between the two countries plays an important role in maintaining an equitable, fair, rational and civilized international energy order. The energy resources constitute an important material foundation for the social and material development, which enables us to meet the needs of the people and their striving for a better life and meets the joint aspirations of both Russia and China. With this in mind, I would like to voice the following four proposals. First of all, to support the role of the businesses as the subject and follow the commercial principles in searching for the opportunities and cooperation. At this forum, we have the leading Chinese and Russian companies represented from the energy industry. I hope that the companies from both countries, upon the principles of mutual benefit and upon commercial viability, will be more active in mutual consultations and contacts in search for various cooperative projects, in searching interested partners and working together within optimal business project. It's important to strengthen mutual support and support for the energy projects so that the financial and insurance institutions from both countries could also be deeply engaged in the full cycle of the implementation of the energy-related projects and thus renew the model of financial and insurance facilitation for the purpose of sound financial support for the energy cooperation between our two countries. The second proposal is to expose the potential aimed at further improving the quality of our cooperation in energy. It is important to launch a whole number of exemplary projects in the area of power industry and new sources of electricity to deepen cooperation in technical standardization within the context of mutual recognition and harmonization between our technical standards. One should be more active in scientific innovations as the one which incentivizes the development of the energy cooperation, to promote a deeper cooperation between the power industries, along with such information technologies as big data, artificial intellect, and internet. One should strengthen the cooperation in the research and development in the area of energy industry, jointly achieve the breakthroughs in developing the key know-hows and the production of the state-of-the-art equipment and the best practices. It is necessary to even closer cooperate in exchanging our experience and to make more active in terms of the contact between our brain centers for the purpose of mutual enrichment and strengthening the soft power between the two countries in the area of energy. The third one, to facilitate the integration of our interests, to deepen the multifaceted comprehensive cooperation in the area of exploration, production, and marketing. The Russian-Chinese energy cooperation is of a long-term encompassing and strategic nature. It is impossible without a long-term planning on the basis of the current environment. With this in mind, the government authorities and the companies from both countries should be confident in the cooperation in the future, continuously complementing each other with their own advantages on the basis of mutual choice, not limiting themselves just to trading energy resources, particularly some individual projects. It is important to enhance and deepen cooperation for the interests of developing mutually favorable architecture in our mutual cooperation. The fourth one, to grow cooperation in global management in the area of energy, to promote its sustainable development. Under the circumstances where the current world is facing very tough challenges coming from geopolitical realms such as the environmental pollution and climatic change, we are far from achieving the ultimate objective where every individual would gain access to sustainable and reliable sources of energy. We are in for a long and difficult journey to achieve energy security and promote the transformation of our energy systems. Being major energy powers in the world, Russia and China ought to act together and develop multilateral cooperation, play a constructive role in the system of global energy resource management, and make a bigger contribution into the global energy development. Dear President Putin, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, the Russia-Chinese cooperation brings a broad spectrum of activities and a big potential. The countries of both countries act as a sound, reliable partner. Together with President Putin, I am eager to promote the work done by the governments of the two countries to create a favorable business environment, to expand cooperation through the business community of the country, and providing them with an all-around political support. I am convinced that thanks to the development of the Russian-Chinese relations and an encompassing partnership and the strategic cooperation in the new era, as an important guarantee, both the Russian and Chinese businessmen, in the spirit of solidarity, will be able to take this bilateral cooperation to a higher level for the benefit of the peoples of both countries. Thank you for your attention.
Well, you've been watching live feed from St. Petersburg, where Chinese President Xi Jinping and his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin were attending this this energy forum, participated by over 400 delegates. And now to further discuss this, let's turn to our studio guest, Dr. Shen Yang, a senior consultant at the Asian Development Bank. It's great to have you with us on our show, Mr. Shen. So we just heard these addresses by President Xi and President Putin, and President Xi raised this concept of innovation through high technology in the field to facilitate energy cooperation, and he also suggested building this new global energy order. What are your takes on this? What exactly does he mean by this new global energy order?
Well, I think I just heard about speech from both sides. I think there are a lot of new things we haven't heard before from the past energy dialogues between the two countries. So Mr. Xi Jinping mentioned about innovative scientific innovation, sustainable energy, sustainable development, AI, big data. So I think all this issue is a signal the two countries will both deeper and how to say, make the cooperation wider, both deeper and wider. So this is a big signal. I think in before we haven't heard about renewable energy. I mean, between the two countries' dialogue, it's always oil and gas. Of course, oil and gas are very, very important for the two countries. But I think there's a big signal that the two countries will move forward to broader, how to say, topics, and make the cooperation deeper.
Right, and as both countries are trying to improve or facilitate their cooperation in oil and gas, they're also suggesting to improve their cooperation in nuclear energy, and 4 nuclear power plants are being built to facilitate that cooperation. How important is that for both countries?
I think for me, market is not just market. It also means the technology accumulation and also the capacity. I think start from about 20 years ago to now, more than 60% of the nuclear power station are, how to say, participated by Chinese and Russian, companies. So that means in the future, I think both these two countries will play a leading role in this sector. That also means technology exchange and also technology cooperation for both countries and even to other countries. So I think from the market viewpoint, I think this is also very good for the two countries, and also improve the nuclear energy security. I think if the technology can be improved, I think.
Right, and President Xi Jinping also said that China and Russia should improve their global energy governance because we are seeing different challenges posed by geopolitics, pollution, as well as climate change. How important is this vision for the cooperation between China and Russia?
Well, you also mentioned climate change. I think for me, I think the natural gas cooperation is quite important. China is now switching from coal to natural gas, and also China's importing more and more natural gas from all over the world. I think Russia's share will definitely going up. So in addition, China is building, I think, a lot of new, the LNG devices to stations. I think all this capacity will be explored, if we can improve the import of natural gas from Russia. On the other hand, I noticed, Mr. Xi Jinping mentioned the commercial principle when the two countries work together. I think rather than political, I think the commercial principle could be a very good point for the two countries. And also Mr. Xi Jinping mentioned the multilateral cooperation. So,
well, thanks so much, Dr. Shen Yang. We have to leave you there. We got to go now. Thank you for your insight on that. Now that wraps up our special coverage of President Xi Jinping's visit to Russia. And coming up next is Asia Today. Stay with me.